There we go. All right, Julie. Roll for mastery for another episode of two.
Episode non-denominational.
Yeah, an indeterminate episode number.
Indeterminate.
Well, because I just released on this past week. I released the one when I sat down and spoke with Rin about LARPing, and
Oh, you did another
yep,
whatchamacallit?
that's one of the girls from
Oh.
Sunday. And then the next 2 weeks are the videos we have with Erica. So then this will probably go in after that without looking at a calendar. But all right, so tonight or now we're going to talk about um, characters, whether it be player character or non-player characters, that character's background, their history. If it's a player character, that character's development as a result of that. Perhaps um, their flaws, their personality traits, their idiosyncrasies, and how do you play that player character as the player, or how do you play that NPC as the DM? And
Mm.
we're going to start our conversation tonight with that. Depending how time goes, we'll perhaps do another episode and we'll talk about the long campaigns, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I'll start out by saying, as a general rule, as the 1E guy, character background plays very little role for me as the DM, a player character background. And I say that from the DM perspectives. And I say that because I am not going to integrate 4, 5, 6 player backgrounds into an overall greater story arc for the campaign. Even if the campaign runs 4, 5, 6 modules, right? And a module being 6 to 12 months at a time. I
Character arcs.
right. I'm not going to try to integrate all that because some of that stuff just may not really fit at all.
Depending on how the character wants to do their story. If they're okay with leaving it open for interpretation, then the world's your oyster at that point.
But even still, it might be challenging to. They could be completely different backgrounds and have completely different interests for their characters, even if they leave it open to the DM, and then to try to integrate it. I think the adventure itself is more important. In essence, that task at hand, that quest, is more important than trying to integrate all these different characters. Now, on my Sunday game, Rin, who plays Licia, she was the only one who presented me with a character background, like a page and a half, as I had a template that I had found
Oh my
from
goobers, man.
from the DM layer here on YouTube, and I provided that to all my players. And I said, if you want to do a background, please use this template. It works and it's short. And
My friend Mark uses the old Ravenloft one.
I said I'll see what I can do with it.
Mm.
And no one else provided me anything, so that kind of worked for me as the DM. That I only have one to for consideration. And long story short, on hers, she's now trying to find her mother, who left her, I don't know, shortly after birth or something to that effect. So she's trying to find her mother. And that's what I'm kind of weaving into the greatest story. Being that we're still on the first module, and the heck, they're halfway through at best, I got plenty of time to work in her missing mother because it's the first module and we intend to play more than one, so
Oh,
I have
bless me, sorry.
I have time to work that in.
All right. Uh,
So, I mean, you have a table of consistent eight. Well, you have 8 seats. You have 8 players that show up every week. Who shows up varies a little bit. For the most part, you have pretty consistent 10 players. Of those 10,
yeah,
8 show up. So, imagine for yourself, Julie, they all walk in with this 1 to 2 page character background,
they
and
have.
they're giving it to you because
They have.
they want you to do something with it, right? And now,
And I kind of am ish, but I
exactly,
have a
ish,
secret. I have a
ish.
secret.
So,
So for anyone listening, spoiler alert, please don't listen to my players. My secrets correspond to events that already happened in the campaign. I've given everybody a secret. that corresponds to the campaign already.
Okay. Okay.
So they've worked the secret into their own background and done some of the work for me.
Okay. Um, so do you have to further
Flesh it out?
involve
Yeah, sometimes.
or weave in these eight different backgrounds into the overall story arc in some way? Because you're playing Strahd right now, and
Yeah.
Strahd's already fully the whole thing's already fleshed out. There's really no wiggle room there.
Yeah, so like here recently, this isn't spoilers. Here recently, one of my characters was playing a tiefling, and there is a character in Strahd who has a demon arm. He's like part demon, but he's not quite a tiefling. He's like some kind of abomination of like a quarter demon. I made that person their brother, and now they have a weird brother complex thing going on, and they kind of like, oh well, we were separated at birth and he got lost, and or he got taken away from me kind of deal. And so now they have this weird like brother dynamic, and I get to play with them that way. um, I have another character who's dead, who made a new character, but the dead character's husband was a specific species of elf only native to Barovia, and there's like a secret hidden in there. And they're like getting all these little crumbs and clues kind of deal, and now they finally like, oh, I knew his her husband, I knew a guy. And it's kind of like woven itself in as well that way, because I've pre-woven it in. I've taken something that already exists in the campaign and I've breadcrumbed it to a character with them not knowing what the heck it is, and then it comes back to them when they finally get to the place they're going to, and then they're like, oh my god, wait, hold on a second, I've been sitting on this Easter egg this whole time.
And that's what happens sometimes is you give them stuff early and they forget. I mean,
Oh well, that too,
yeah,
and then they're like, oh crap, what
yeah.
am I gonna do now?
And we've seen that on Tuesday night in our game too. When I have to go back and remind you guys like 6 months later, hey, check your notes. Remember I sent you guys this a long time ago when we first started. So yeah, so they character players can lose track of stuff, especially those who are not note takers in the during the weekly or during the game session. But now I do something similar, but not background related per se, unless it's presented to me, which I would kind of utilize your tactically a little bit. But on Sunday
One of
night,
my characters is like, I have no memory, do whatever you want, and I'm like, cool, great, love that.
on Sunday night, I only had one player present me with background. On Tuesday night, I only had one player present me with any sort of background. So I didn't have a lot to work with, which is plenty okay for me. Um, and on Sunday, I'm going to try to weave in her missing mother. That will become its own little kind of quest unto itself. And on
Rustin
Tuesday,
kind of did that, right?
on Tuesday I tried with him when you guys were in the Elven village. I kind of described and made mention of his long lost or his girlfriend or something, and it
Yeah,
totally went over his head. He didn't even pick up on it
completely.
because he didn't even know that
Yay.
because he forgot about his own character background that he created.
LOL. His
So
own
yeah.
background.
So all the more reason why I don't put a lot of emphasis on that, because by the time it really comes into play months and months later, the players forget about it. Players forget about it. And for us on Tuesday, our overall story arc has nothing to do with the character background. It's about the books. The books have all known dot dot dot.
Dot 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 dot
So,
dot.
um, but I think though that whether it be a player character or an NPC, not so much the character background affects really how I play as player or DM, but that character's idiosyncrasies, their personality traits, their behaviors is really what affects how that character is played or should be played. So if the character has a problem with gambling, right? They like to gamble, they like to throw the dice, throw the
Mhm.
darts, whatever. That can come into play. If they have an addiction, they like to eat some mushrooms. That might come into play. If they're a little kleptomaniac, Yeah. So all those
Yeah.
kind of things,
Loot Goblin. Me,
all
I'm a
those
Loot
things,
Goblin.
affect how the character's played, and just the same, truly their personality. If they're loud and obnoxious all the time, if they curse like a sailor, that's a very different character to play than the one who's quiet and reserved and speaks very
Yeah.
eloquently. Um, but all that does come into play. For me as the DM, keeping track of all that is the hardest part of all.
Meh.
Because even if I take notes, that's still whatever 5, 10 characters that I need. I'm role
Trying
playing
to
in a social
remember.
role play, and for smoothness of gameplay, I often don't have that on my screen. And even if I have notes on it, I don't remember what that guy sounded like if I'm doing a little bit of a voice for him. I
All of mine just sound like this.
Yeah.
That is all. Except for kids. Kids have like their own like. I'm a kid.
Yeah, because you had in Minds of Fandelver before I got there. I think it was before I got there. There was some kid at the local bar or something that they found
Was a
his lost
menace.
dog or something to that effect, right?
Was a menace. Him and his friend showed the party where the entrance to a the secret entrance was to the underground like under the keep kind of like dungeon area. And they were both like fucking menaces. They had to like the party had to bribe the kids for information. Kid got a stick, a pointy stick once, and like stabbed a player with it. I think Chase ended up webbing one of them to the barn. Just fucking like horribly annoying. Just the most annoying things I could think of.
So I think for me, what's fun to play again are those little idiosyncrasies, those personality and behavioral things. So in the keep on the Borderlands, which is Sunday night, and I play it on Friday night as well. Friday night, they have an old man um, tavern keeper, Marty.
Hmm.
And he kind of talks like this to you because he's the old man with a crackly kind of voice from smoking the pipe too long all those years. um,
Well, I mean, so does Romney. Sounds like that.
well, Romney,
Romney's a little creepier though.
Romney has sounds similar because I only have so many voices I can do, which is really just that one. Um, but Romney's personality was certainly different, right? And that ties
Right.
into the different types of NPCs, which is what we're going to talk with Erica here in a couple weeks about, or talk about with in a couple weeks with Erica, about the different types of NPCs and also what happens when you have the player,
Derail your
the
party.
problematic player. But
Derail your story.
so where was I going with that? So okay, but on Friday night, same module, but excuse me, on Sunday night, same module, but they have a different innkeeper. They have I don't know, another little gnome, but a woman, and she's not quite as old, and she's a little more spunk in her step and stuff. I can't think of her name right. Fensa, the gnome. So I have to keep track of these guys, and not because they're in the same module, just running different nights, but it's just another. It's 3 games that I'm running with all these different NPCs, and to keep track of. Even if I only have 3 in each, that's nine. That's
There you
nine
go.
NPCs to keep track of. If there are like three
Yeah.
primary NPCs in
And
each
there's
one.
some people who have like a tiny little like block, not like maybe like an index card, maybe where it's like this is the NPC's personality, this is the voice I did,
hmm
and then you just put the card away. This is the NPC's personality and this little voice I did, and you put it away.
You know, you say that, and that's probably a good idea. I didn't consider that. Like just doing a little index card for that, and that way I can
Yeah.
physically have it there in front of me versus looking at the other screen at my Microsoft OneNote for my notes about that character. Because I probably don't need the full screen of notes. I just need a few bullet points, like you're talking about. I can put on an index card.
There's like you can like print off little tracker cards, and so like this is Oh, excuse me. You can probably find them you can find them for free, I bet. But it has like stuff on it where it says stuff like important information, everything, everything all in one spot. So this is like the name, their race and heritage, the location the party found them. It has some stats. It has maybe what they have, like their inventory, if they have anything important for the party, and then it has says details and notes. So you could do a brief description and maybe like what their voice sounds like. And you can find this is an Etsy one, but and I bet you could go on Etsy and pay $1 for some free printables. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, just the same. I mean, I can use Microsoft Word and print it on a 3x5 index card.
yeah, there's a bunch that are just free.
Oh, and actually, okay, so to that note, I have to. I had created my own spell cards for 1E, all the
Yeah,
clerical magical spell cards, and I had formatted all that for
around
three
the
by five
OneDrive.
index cards. And I'm now learning that I probably should reformat it for 4x6 because my eyes need a 4x6 instead of a 3x5. Not hard to do, but yeah. So I've learned that now moving forward.
That's
No more three
great.
by fives, four by
This is
six.
just this is a square for a picture. If you want to add a picture, their name, the location where you met them, and notes, and that's it. So that one's even easier, and that's all. That's free.
I like free. I like that price.
Yeah, the price of free.
That's
Of
always in
course,
my
people do
budget.
like Excel spreadsheets and bullshit like that, but you could get like just freebie ones, um, where you can just have a little go away. No one likes all of you.
All right. So when you're doing
Um,
session zero and you guys are creating characters, I know that much of your peeps like the social role play. They like to kind of flesh out their character sheet. I know, like Artie did that. He
mhm.
fully fleshed out whether he consciously chose it or rolled for on random tables. But do you encourage them to flesh that out so they have their quote unquote their flaws and their personality traits and such?
I like flaws, traits, ideals, and bonds, which is the thing you're talking about. That's a 5e thing. I don't know if they have those in first edition.
Um,
Do they?
I don't recall having ever come across tables for that because developing your character like that really is not. I don't want to say it's not important.
I like it
It
for
happens much more
new
organically
characters.
in 1E that you just role play your character and organically you play the character how you want. And then if you want to go back and put pen
Hmm.
to paper to describe that, then so be it.
Hmm.
But I think now, again, just the way 5th edition is kind of designed, regardless whether we're talking 14 or 24, they got all those tables for that. So a lot of the players want the tables to define the character for them and how they should role play it.
And I think that's really good for really, really new players that have no experience role playing and are shy to role play
Right.
because then it gives them a starting point. And if they don't like it, then maybe they take it out and they replace it for something that they're more aligned with. Maybe they have a vibe that they're going for. I did that for my very first character. I was trying to make like a druid cleric combination, like a shaman man, and I was trying to make him like a sea boy as well. So he had like a sailor background. And then I went through all of the like bonds, deals, traits, and flaws, and I was like, that fits my character. I'm gonna pick that. Where it doesn't really matter, no. But if you're like, I don't know how to roleplay this character, you could then look at that and be like, okay, maybe I should go in this direction.
So I like the idea, and we're getting just I want to take one sidestep here about the tables. Okay, I like tables. I don't always use them as they're intended to be a random table. The table is a list of ideas for me, and it's certainly in this case,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
So I would just read through it and say, "Oh, that sounds like I could role play that. That sounds like it'd be fun to role play," and just pick it versus rolling and randomly saying, "Oh man, this is gonna suck." Right. So what would you do? You roll again. So if you're gonna roll again, just pick what you want.
Pick the one you want. Yeah.
Especially like you said, as a new player, an inexperienced role player.
Yeah.
if you got
Role player,
some
not even like the mechanics. Like you
right,
know how to combat really good, but you're really shit at role play. You
but
know.
if you have experience, then yeah, I could roll it, randomly get it, and I can role play it. Even if it doesn't kind of make sense.
I think that's a fun acting thing. That's more of a challenge to me. I like doing it for one shots, and I'll randomly generate an ass ton of characters for one shots, and I'll read the bonds, traits, ideals, and flaws, and I'll use it as a almost like an improv session where I have my this is my character now, and now I must act the way my character is portrayed.
Yeah, so
And that's like a
right,
challenge to
it's a
me.
challenge, and those really weird things that you roll that don't make sense on this table and that table and that when you put them together, like they don't make any sense. But it really make that really
It makes
quirkiness
your
of a
brain
character
itch.
that it creates. I mean, that leads to all kinds of
I think it's fun.
shenanigans. It makes it fun, yeah. Um, if you can role play it,
Yeah, correct.
and
If you know
like
what
you
you're
said,
doing.
a lot of people, I think we're seeing still a little bit of a growth here in the D&D genre. There's still a lot of strong interest in people coming into it brand new, and those who are coming in seem to be coming in with zero background. Right? Maybe they played Baldur's Gate, but like no actual role playing background of any kind, so they don't know, what it is to role play. And so having that list for them to choose from versus randomly rolling, I think certainly can be helpful for that
Yeah.
player to kind of
Flesh
develop
out
the
just the
character. But
base
just the
base
same though,
character
Julie,
development.
I guess yeah. If you have someone who's a little gun shy and doesn't know what it is
Yeah.
to role play, yes.
Yeah.
But if you have someone who's
Otherwise,
if you have someone who feels comfortable role playing but doesn't have the
yeah,
experience, right? Do I even need to do any of that? Just role play. Just
correct.
go,
And then
go
your
with
character
whatever you feel
becomes
like.
natural. Yeah.
Right, right. As long as it's not you, because if you're role playing as yourself, then you're really not role playing at all.
A lot
You
of
know.
people, a lot of very, very, very news, the very, very babies will play themselves. It's
Right,
the easiest character to do because you just do someone that aligns closely with your ideals,
and that's
and then
because
you
they're
just
not role
kind of
playing.
no, because they're just playing.
Right,
They're just
right.
doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. I had a thought in there. Hang on. Role playing.
Me and Wesley did it one time. We made randomly generated characters for a one shot, and he was a druid, and I was like some entertainer charlatan, and we did it like we were a rigged fight club, where he would turn into the beast, and I would get monsters to fight the beast, and we would rig our games.
So lately, I've been watching some
It's my backstory. That
YouTube
was it.
and television um, live play of D&D or D&D mechanics. I'm not going to call it D&D. Um, but
You
so
sent me a couple of them.
yeah, so
Yeah,
for entertainment value, I'm embracing that a little bit. That
I like
it's
to put it on the
it's
background.
not it's not friggin' Critical Role. It's not all scripted out. It's not 5 hours
No,
long.
right,
It's
right.
45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, and it's very obvious that they are truly just live playing with really no script. Of course, there's a storyline, right? It's a one shot, um, and that a lot. And where I'm going with it is when the one shot, like you're describing, I don't care what kind of character I have
No,
because
something
in an
fun.
hour or
Let's
three
go.
hours, whatever, I'm done. I'm going to throw it away,
That character's
and I'm going to
gone.
pick up another one for the next one
Yeah,
shot. Right?
yeah.
If it's my ongoing campaign that I'm going to be playing for months or years, then yeah, I want a freaking character that I want. Right? So at that point,
They're
I'm going to take the
fleshed
time
out.
to develop my character, whether it's predefined or over time. I want to truly develop that character. And when I say develop, I mean through role play, develop, not
Yeah,
pen and paper
scenarios.
and narrate it out before we even start. That's not really developing of the role play of the character, right?
It's what they were before they were
So,
an
well,
adventurer.
that's a background though. That's not developing of the character as a person, right? Who
Oh
they
well, I
are,
guess
their
yeah.
personality traits. how would they handle themselves in this situation, kind of thing.
Yeah, your background could determine that. If something horrible happens in your youth, then you take it with you, kind of deal. Happens in your background that you take it with you.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I think most
Okay.
often, yeah, most often though we see character backgrounds of where they came from, their familial history, their social history in terms of
Why
friends,
they
right?
left home.
Why they left, their job they had before, their trade or profession they did before,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the bulk. I'm not saying exclusively, but that's the bulk of what we see in character backgrounds. Because if I asked you, Julie, um, in one page, describe Julie. What's your background? That's probably going to be the
Work
focus
experience.
of right. Well,
See my resume.
right. That's your previous job. So
Yeah.
that's primarily what we're going to focus on. Oh, I'm one of three children. My parents are still alive. Maybe this is what my parents are from, where I grew up, where I went to school. Here's a couple of my jobs I had in my youth, a couple of my jobs I had
My
as an adult,
college,
right? My education, perhaps. But
furthering education.
unless I had a very noteworthy incident in my life, you said like a traumatic experience or whatever, unless it's
My
really
house burnt down when
noteworthy,
I was 6.
then that might, in just in basic dialogue up front, introduction, I'm probably going to overlook that or not wanting to share that quite yet. So
Right. Hold on to it.
yeah, so that's okay to not have all that defined out front.
It's usually just like I usually for people's backstories, background in 5e is literally just your job. It was what were you before you became an adventurer. Backstory is all that other jim jam.
Okay, hang on. So your background is your previous employment or trade,
That's it. Period.
background, and your backstory is more the
Is all the
social
other
side of
stuff.
things.
Yeah. Where I grew up, who I am, where I'm from, why I became an adventurer. Here's my family details. Yada yada yada
Okay,
yada yada.
so
Now I'm an adventurer on the road.
right, so for me, and maybe it's semantics,
That's
but
a 5e thing, but
um, character development. To me, I think from this point moving forward, we're going to develop that character. Anything that happened
yeah,
before is not development.
no.
That's already
It's where
happened.
you start,
That's a
right?
history, character history,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or we might call character background. That's your history. What's happened in the past? I'm talking about development moving forward. When I hear the word development, right? So
Yeah.
moving forward, well, I have a starting point. I have to have my piece of clay, right? Which is how I behave. Do I drink too much? Am I polite? Am I rude? Do I like to get into bar fights? That's my starting point, and then I develop from there. Now, my development could be lateral, and status quo, and I still like to get into bar fights. But
Yeah.
maybe over time, for whatever reason, I decide to
You become
develop
a
this
better
character
person.
that, hey man, yeah, drinking's proven a problem for me. I got my ass kicked the last 10 times. Hell, I even got arrested. Maybe I need to try to stop drinking a little less.
Yeah.
As the character. So that would
Maybe
be
I won't burn
so.
people's houses down anymore.
Yes, Artie. So that would be character development. But just the same though, working with that though, Julie, that character, Arsis, had never given us any indication that he would behave in such a way. We had a
Well,
change
there's
of
two
play. We had a
characters.
change of players for the character,
I
and
mean, two players.
And
Sorry.
Artie decided to say, I want to burn the guy's house down.
Enlist chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be character development, right? Now he might have had a template, which is really what we're talking about here when we talk about these personality traits and behaviors and a little bit of background mixed in there. I view that like a template of who your character is now to then further develop that moving forward. But development moves forward,
Right.
not backwards.
Right. Unless, well, I feel like you could develop backwards. You could, I guess, negative. You could develop negatively. You could become a serial killer or some shit.
Well, yes, but development doesn't always have to be a positive thing or really a true
Right. It
progression.
could
It's moving
negative.
forward because posit because positivity or negativity is really about perspective, right?
That's true.
So
You
so
join an assassin's guild and you're a
right.
goody two shoes,
So
then you're gonna get kicked out of the assassin's guild.
I know criminology is not my field of expertise, but I would imagine
No.
that most serial killers, in their mind, in their demented mind, they probably didn't realize that they were demented. and therefore
No, not for a long time.
they weren't doing all this.
They're
They didn't
sick.
realize that they were doing all that. It was bad, right? So for them,
Yeah,
that's
ill
it's still development. They were developing, right? They were developing
into
their
something
skills on how to be a serial killer,
or whatever, a psychopath, a sociopath,
or
whatever
whatever
it
it
is.
is, right?
Yeah, they don't know, especially if they're not exposed to anything normal. Like if they're a lot of people like that are brought up in horrible, horrible situations, like household situations,
Think of
where they
a
don't know any better.
DC sniper. I mean, that's a good example of
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that young kid developed. I mean, it wasn't good development, by societal standards, but the kid developed over time. He developed his bond with the other guy. I don't know his name, and he honed his marksmanship with a rifle for ill intent, nonetheless. But he developed his skills. So he developed over
He still
time,
developed.
and he
Yeah.
learned how to be
Yeah.
secretive and overt or covert and evade law enforcement. I mean, those are skills. It's just how you put them to use. Just like computer hacking, right? Computer hacking, you can do it ethically or not. An ethical hacker
Right.
we view as the good guy who sits on the company side of things and tries to prevent the bad guys from getting in. But it's still the
Right.
same methodology and the same techniques that are used by the unethical hacker to break into your computer.
Yeah.
So either way, I'm still developing those skills as a computer person,
Yeah. Whether or not they're used for
for good
good
or
or
not.
bad, I
Right,
guess.
right.
Yeah.
But it's still development.
Kind of a Batman scenario.
So, um, so yeah, so your character can develop either good or bad, right? But the point is, you have a point of origin, and moving forward is where the development happens. What happened in the past is not development. At that point, it's your history, it's your background. But I think we still kind of get into semantics, but nonetheless, that all that comes into play as to how you play that character, assuming you're at least decent at role playing, and you look at your
Hmm.
character sheet from time to time, assuming you have it itemized on your character sheet, and you use that to guide you or remind you of how to role play this character.
Yeah.
You
Where
know,
you're going, what you're
if
doing.
you're the outspoken guy who curses and is always loud and objects to everything, then you role play that. So when you and your friends, your fellow adventurers, are down in the dungeon crawl and they're saying, "Hey, let's go this way," maybe you're the guy who speaks up and loudly and says, "No, F it, let's go this way," and starts going that way whether everyone else goes with them or not. Because
Yeah, whether or not
they're the
they
loose
do it.
cannon, right? But if that's not on your
Hmm.
character sheet, or you forget it and don't remind yourself by looking at it, then you're not going to be able to role play that character well in terms of sticking to that personality, that character.
Yeah. And then you're veering from your original character, whether and sometimes so much so that it's not development, it's just a misplay or a lapse in, you know, I guess judgment, but not judgment. Like how your I can't even. My brain don't work sometimes. No good. Uh, gosh, I can't remember what the word I'm looking for is. But just like how like being a player period, you have to like have that sense of, well, that's not what my character would do, or that's not, I don't know that information kind of deal. And it comes down to just being a experienced player and not necessarily an experienced character.
Correct, and there's a
Yeah.
distinction to be made there between the player and the character.
Hmm.
At least there should be. Again, unless you're role playing as yourself, in which case there's not much distinction to be made. But there is a distinction to be made as that, and we hear that from time to time in our own games, occasionally, and certainly with people chit chatting online, that you'll hear players say that. Well, that's what my character would do. And
Yeah, and it's
most
definitely not.
often they're using that as a justification or a defense as to why they role played their character to do this particular action. And oftentimes
Mm,
it's a crock of shit. They did something that really was
it
out of
is.
character, and or the character really has not been well defined or itemized in the character sheet, which is fine. But everything else they role played for the past 6 months says they wouldn't do that. But now the
Right.
player wants to be a and do this and says, "Oh, well, that's what my character would do." And it's such a
You're
crock
like,
of
oh,
shit.
stop
It's
it.
such a crock of shit. Because if
Just
if the player needs to say
doing it to
that,
further your agenda.
if the player needs to say that to justify their actions, then it's a crock of shit. Because if
I
they
like to think of it.
if they were playing true to the character, they wouldn't feel the need to explain or justify why they're
Right.
doing that.
Right. I like to do it when I definitely know my character would do the stupid thing, but me, Julie, doesn't want to do the stupid thing. My recent character, and I've talked about my character on my Saturday games, is kind of stupid. She has an 8 in intelligence. So she's not average. She's just slightly below average. So she's like she's a good adventurer and she does the thing, but she's also just slightly stupid. So like there was a cursed object and I was like, that's definitely a cursed object. And I was like, me, Julie, I'm not going to touch it. Me, my character, I'm going to go touch the cursed object because I'm a little treasure goblin in that campaign. I like loot bodies and I steal treasure when no one's looking. I've like sleight of handed treasure into my pocket.
So
I'm going to go touch the
that
thing.
so that makes me think as well that I don't want to say too often. It's just really the way people typically play, or the way people typically don't play. That when they're in game session, they're not 100% in character from beginning to end, right? But
Yeah.
and that's why you felt the need to say, okay, well, my character would do this, right? Because there are times
I
when we're
just think about it
actually
sometimes where I'm like,
there are times when we're in our gameplay when we talk out of character, right? We're not 100%
right.
in, or we're not in character 100% of the time. But if we were, as I see a lot of these live play games, I don't know, televised or YouTubed or whatever, um, that
Where they're in
the
character the
entire game
entire
session,
time.
those players
Yeah.
are role playing that character, so they don't need to say, they're always speaking in characters. They don't need to define or explain anything or say, oh well, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I know better, but my character, because they are in the for that 1 hour or 2 3 hours, they are the character. They are role playing that character out. They're embracing that, becoming one with the character. And I think too often we don't do that, and players and DMs or their NPCs too often don't really role play. We just say the character does this, the character does that, and there's very
Hmm.
little role play, or not as much role play as I think there should be in a role playing game. So that's a little bit of a kind of tangential to our general topic here of character background and development, but it still kind of applies as to how we play these characters. But yeah, you do need to play the character.
Yeah.
When you play Monopoly, do you play the thimble? Do you play the car? Or do you play the shoe? Well, it's irrelevant, but you picked one. That's the one that you are
Right.
playing. So I chose Dalman, the elf fighter magic user. That's my character. I'm going to play my character.
Right.
And granted, at the time I was 12, I didn't really understand the whole role playing in person kind of thing. It was more all game mechanics. But now, as an adult, I understand really what it means to role play. So I would role play that character, and I would speak and act in character as much as possible. Not to say I need to use a voice, but um, the voice does help. It helps for the immersion aspect, but it also helps to distinguish when you're speaking in character versus out of
And out of
character,
character.
right?
Yeah, and I'm bad about that actually. I do all these voices for all my campaigns, but as a player, I never have a character voice. Ever, never,
Why
ever.
not?
And I should. I don't know. I should.
And then I find that I got two or three players who have a voice for their character, but they forget to use it half the time. Like Erica has a voice for her character. And sometimes I have to remind her, Erica, use your voice. Erica, use your voice, because the character has a voice and she
She's like,
forgets to
oh,
use
oh,
it.
wait.
Yeah, she forgets to use it. Like she's kind of role playing as the character, but falls out of the voice role play.
Right.
Because if I remember correctly, she was a theater kid like you. So,
No, yeah, it's definitely the like separating all of them to then make a cohesive character, and then to develop on top of your cohesive character, the background, the backstory combined to then further your own development, whether it's positive or negative in what you're doing.
right. And
It's very interesting.
I don't think we need to split, and we're not going to. We don't need to split hairs. And I think it is splitting hairs between background development, uh, character
The
history. I mean, it's all kind
backstory.
of splitting hairs.
Yeah.
The concept, put
Yeah.
it under the bigger umbrella of your character, um, and kind of you can mince it up how you want, but you have a character, and your character, although fictitious, but if you read a novel, okay, and I'm not a reader, but if you read a novel, that author is going to develop that character over, paragraph, paragraph, or chapter after chapter after chapter. And part of that is the character's personality, right? And their behaviors in certain situations. That's character. That's
Right.
character development. It happens over time. It's not always defined up front, and sometimes it's kind of unclear. Um, but the point I'm making now is that you're in a role playing game. You have a character that you need to role play, and you have to have something to role play. Again, those personality traits, that background, that history. You have to have, even if it's just a little bit, you have to have something as a basis of how you want to play that character.
Yeah.
You
Some
know,
kind of an idea, some
yeah,
kind of jumping board.
good or bad. Polite or rude. Um, cordial or aggressive, whatever it may be. You have to have something.
Something. Anything.
So, all right, Julia, that's all I really got here on this topic. I don't have too much to offer, um, unless there's any other bullet points you want to spark the conversation with.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then we'll wrap it up here. It's a short one for us, 40-ish minutes. But
It was a
that's
small topic.
Yeah, but that's
It
okay.
wasn't
Yeah, I mean
some
it's
crazy
not a huge
topic.
yeah, it's not a huge topic. Well, I mean, I guess it could be if you really want to delve into it, but I don't want to do
I
that. No. As a
don't
one
want to
as
do
a
that.
one ear, as a roll up a sheet, let's play, and what happens happens, and that's how you get a character. Well, in terms of
Yeah.
a character background, personality, whatever. Okay. Um, but like we said, sometimes it helps newbies if they have that template, so that
I
it,
think it
it, it
does.
gives them something to role play. So, all right, Julie, you have final
Yeah.
word. Ready? 30 seconds. Go.
Final word, 30 seconds. So like I was saying before, like to have the background and the backstory even slightly fleshed out, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just as much as I read the book here, I picked some options and now I know where to go and you DM can do whatever the heck you want. Or if it's a two-page biography about your past, in either direction, you're fleshing out your character, you're thinking about a direction you want to go, and like what you said previously, it is a starting point. Okay, all that's in the past, that is what made me the person I am right now, from level 1 to level 25, whatever the heck you're going to play to, is going to be all new from here, whether that's positive, negative, or otherwise. And I think that background, that starting point, can help you with that direction because it can help you keep yourself aligned with what you chose when you built your character, to try and make sure you stay in line with the character you built. And if you don't want to stay in line with the character you built, something horrible happens, maybe talking with your DM to change some of that development into your negative direction or your positive direction, whatever that may be, is definitely just part of it all. It's all part of the game, all part of the show, all part of the fun.
And
That's
on
all I got.
that, I'll, in respect of offering you the last word, I will say nothing else. But I do have something I'll say off camera, in response, supporting what you're saying. But all right, so all right, people, you have a good night. For those who might choose to watch this video, and we will see you in about a week. Peace out.
Woo!